Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, very nice to meet you and join you today, Karen.
And it's so great that you've agreed to speak at the NCH conference for us, our first online conference that we're very much looking forward to. So the chat today is just to give our audience a little bit more of an understanding of who you are and what you're going to be speaking about. So what's your background? What kind of led you down the path of neurodiversity?
I think it's probably quite multifactorial, if you like. So I'm autistic for a start. It's just an area I'm very passionate about working within. I live with neurodivergent people in my family, and it's quite a big part of my life now in terms of the therapeutic work I do, not just with hypnotherapy, but in other realms as well, working as a school counsellor and in my own studies as well. So it sort of takes over my whole life, really, and it's very important to me that everyone really in any people-facing line of work, but especially talking therapy, just opens their mind to difference and diversity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a neurodiverse daughter myself, so I can really appreciate where you're coming from. You know, I think there is starting to be a shift in an understanding, but as you say, I think in terms of therapies and that side of it, I don't know that necessarily we're very far down the line with adjusting to the differences in perception and the way that thinking happens yet. So it's really wonderful to hear that you are sort of leading the way and going down this path with something that embraces that. And is that what are you going to be bringing to the conference? How are you going to be getting this across to our members to get them thinking about doing things differently?
Yeah, I think it's going to be about just getting people to maybe think a little differently about some of their clients and some of the issues that their clients might be presenting with if they are neurodivergent. So I'm hoping to talk a little bit about the wider umbrella, because neurodivergence obviously includes lots of issues and neurologies that aren't specific to something like autism. Some people might become neurodivergent through something that happens to them, but a lot of people who do fall under that category, and I'll talk about what that involves at the event, they often have things in common. For example, very heightened nervous systems, maybe different sort of attachment styles and different ways of seeing the world and experiencing one-to-one therapy and interaction. So I hope that we can just throw out some ideas about how to work with clients to support their neurology. Also discuss, particularly from the autistic point of view, some of the sort of facets of what that involves, some of the modern concepts, because as you say, there's a lot of old information out there, I think it's fair to say. And I'd like to blow some myths and just look at some of the modern concepts, but also with a very positive outlook, because the neurodiversity movement is positive. You know, it's celebrating uniqueness and individuality and really looking to support clients from a strengths-based approach and break some of the myths. For example, a therapist said to me quite recently, "How did you feel when you learned you were suffering with autism?" And it's those sort of quite dated concepts that every client who is neurodivergent, maybe autistic, maybe something else, is suffering with that. And of course, they're very likely to have lots of challenges. There's obviously lots of sensory issues that neurodivergent people experience, minority stress. They may be suffering with the environmental effects or the societal effects of some of their issues, but it's almost turning that language around to be more strengths-based and supportive.
Absolutely. Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. It's wonderful. And it's just about, I think, taking, I guess, when I reflect on my own practice, what we do with clients anyway, but maybe taking it a bit further, in the sense that we try to understand that obviously every client is unique, everybody's different, and in that moment when you are having your meeting, your discussions with your client, thinking how they might interpret things best, what would work best for them and with them. But actually, it's something that, for example, you mentioned the sensory. I know that in terms of environment, didn't change that for my clients as they came through the door. Admittedly, if they'd have presented themselves as autistic and said, I prefer light, I prefer dark, this smell bothers me, or what have you. But now, having the benefit of my daughter, I understand more that actually there's, well, we probably both know there's a lot of people, especially of our era, who are undiagnosed, who have masked most of their lives. And it gets you thinking about, yes, does this light bother me? Do these sounds bother me? Actually, do I notice smells more than, and someone may be going through that, and it might have an impact on the session and what they're trying to get help with without maybe even realizing it. So maybe simple questions just to check in about an environment is something that an easy adjustment someone could make to help people.
I think so. And what I've really noticed, I work with a lot of autistic people, but external things like your sleep and just what's going on in your life at that minute, your nervous system, workload, all of those affect our sort of sensibilities and our triggers and our intolerance to sensory things. And I suspect that that is the case with very many sensitive people, not specifically neurodivergent people. So, I mean, I work with quite a lot of anxious clients, and I think the same advice applies to them regardless of their neurology. So it's exactly that, being more considerate of clients' sensory experiences relative to their nervous system at that time. And in 2 weeks' time, when they're in a better place, maybe the adaptations you made 2 weeks ago, might not be necessary. And I think it all goes for online and telehealth in a different way, but it's equally as important as the practice room itself.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really, really interesting. As I say, personally, for me, it's something I'm really interested to hear. And it can only be a fantastic way forward to get people thinking about these differences and how to accommodate people more and more.
Yes, I hope so. I hope people, really enjoy it, and it just gives us all some different viewpoints to chew over and think about, because I think the whole talking therapy industry is really moving forward with this, and especially given all the telehealth progressions we've had in recent years, this is a massive thing and a massive part of anyone's caseload and potential caseload, as a business opportunity. If you're neurodiversity-affirming, wow, you've just opened your doors to very many people who might not have come before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And also so valuable to come from someone like yourself who is autistic, because all too often in these situations, people who aren't, not saying that people couldn't have clients who are autistic if they are not neurodiverse themselves, but actually in terms of learning and understanding, it's so invaluable to have that first-hand experience, both as a client and as a therapist, to have been on both sides of the couch and be autistic yourself. We can get a real insight from you. So thank you so much for agreeing to join us, and really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope everyone has a really great time.
I'm sure they will. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.